Hi, I'm Susanna and these are the books I plan to read in July. That means I'm taking part in Jane Austen July. Jane Austen July is a month-long readathon all about Jane Austen, her works and her time period. I've wanted to join this challenge for years, but I've always had other books on my TBR that I wanted to read first. But this year, now that I finally have my TBR under control, I decided it was time to join. You can learn more about Jane Austen July from the hosts of this challenge, Katie from Books and Things, Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia from Spinster's Library. I leave the links to their channels in the description. But in a nutshell, there are 7 challenges in this readathon, 5 books and 2 screen adaptations. There are also read-along books associated with the challenge. This year's books are Sense and Sensibility, Sanditon, and The Watsons. I won't be participating in the read-alongs because I had already decided what I wanted to read before the read-along books were announced. Anyway, here are the books I'm reading this year and my reasons for picking them. The first challenge is to read one of Jane Austen's main 6 novels. My choice is Pride and Prejudice. This is my favorite Jane Austen novel. It's been a while since I read it and this is the perfect opportunity to fall in love with it again. Another reason for picking Pride and Prejudice is that one of my goals this year is to try annotating a book. I've never annotated a fiction novel before, I've only ever underlined non-fiction books, but I've seen a lot of people do it and I'm curious to see whether I would like the practice. I thought the most sensible approach is to pick a book that I've read and loved, so I know if I don't like annotating, it's not because of the book. And it will also be easier to know what to look for when I dive deeper into things like plot and story structure and characters. So hopefully I can pick up things that I haven't noticed before and deepen my understanding of Austen's genius. One of the reasons I've been hesitant to annotate a book is because I don't want to ruin a good book. But luckily with Pride and Prejudice I already have a not so pretty paperback edition. This is a Wordsworth edition that I got really cheap back in 2002. I also own a pretty edition which is penguin cloth bound. I'm slightly scared of reading this because the cover illustration has a tendency to rub off. So I'll only be reading introductions and notes from this one and the annotations go here. I also have another reason for wanting to read Pride and Prejudice. I have an idea for a modern Pride and Prejudice retelling, so this is sort of kind of research for that potential novel project. The second challenge is to read a Jane Austen work which is not one of her 6 main novels. This can mean her unfinished novels, her juvenilia, which refers to the works that she wrote when she was between 11 and 17 years old, or her letters. My choice is Jane Austen's Juvenilia in a penguin cloth-bound edition of Love and Friendship. The misspelling on the cover is intentional and I hope I won't ruin the cover. I've read Jane Austen's Juvenilia before, but I have not read this edition. I've read Catherine and Other Writings, which should have all of her Juvenilia, and I've also read 2 collections, Leslie Castle and Love and Friendship, which both have a part of Jane Austen's Juvenilia. I'm eager to revisit these stories. They're full of wit and humor and some of the storylines are completely unhinged. The third challenge is to read a non-fiction book about Jane Austen or her time. There are tons of non-fiction books about Jane Austen and her works or Regency England in general. My choice is Lucy Worsley's Jane Austen at Home. Worsley is one of my favorite historians. I love her documentaries. I've never read anything that she has written before, so I'm excited to read this. And I probably can't resist the temptation of watching her Jane Austen documentary again. I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times already. Unrelated to Jane Austen, but if I have time, I will also read Lucy Worsley's If Walls Could Talk, An Intimate History of the Home. This is one of my favorite documentary series of hers. And if I don't have time to read this in July, guess what I'll be reading in August? The next challenge is to read a retelling of Jane Austen's work or a work of historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. This was a bit trickier for me because I find that Jane Austen retellings that feature Austen's characters just do not capture Austen's wit and style, and I end up disappointed. Maybe I just haven't found the right book yet, but this time I decided to go for a modern retelling instead. I read a really funny Pride and Prejudice retelling of Love and Beer by Amanda Darcy earlier this year, so I decided not to read a Pride and Prejudice retelling. Instead, I chose a Persuasion retelling. This is Uzma Jalaluddin's Much Ado About Nada. Persuasion is my second favorite of Jane Austen books, and this has the added bonus of adding more diversity into my repertoire. The characters are Muslim. If you're taking part in Jane Austen July and are still unsure what to read for this particular challenge, it's time for some awkward self-promo. This is my book, Katie. It's a modern retelling of Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. The main character is an avid reader of young adult paranormal romance and absolutely certain that the guy she has a crush on must secretly be a vampire. If you like snarky narrators who constantly break the fourth wall and make fun of overused YA tropes, the link is in the description. The fifth challenge is to read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen. Here's where I had a lot of options. I initially wanted to read something by Frances Burney because I absolutely loved her Evelina, but as it turns out, both Cecilia and Camilla are so long that I'm not sure I can read them in 1 month. So instead, I decided to go for Belinda by Mariah Edgeworth. I know nothing about this book except that someone on Bookstagram recommended it. The last two challenges feature screen adaptations. Challenge 6 is to watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen work. This is the challenge that I've inadvertently taken part of in previous years, as I usually watch BBC's 1995 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice every summer, and that is my choice for this year as well. It's my favorite Jane Austen screen adaptation, and it goes perfectly with reading the book. The seventh and final challenge is to watch a modern screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. I haven't 100% decided what I'll be watching yet. I might just choose Clueless as I have it on my shelf so I don't have to go hunting for another movie, but I must admit that I would be interested in revisiting Pride and Prejudice as I remember it being really funny as well. We'll see what I pick in the end, so stay tuned for my monthly recap at the end of July to see what I picked and how my challenge went. Are you taking part in Jane Austen July? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in my next video.